Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. My name is Mpho and I've got Tim Delace here with me. Tim, how are you doing?
Oh, good, oh, good. Good to be back. Good to be back. We missed a lot of cricket.
Yes, we have missed a lot of cricket. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in South African cricket, but it is kind of the off season, so the emerging teams are around the world. The men's and the women's are in Bangladesh, and then we also have the South Africa A team that's in the West Indies, getting ready to start their 4-day series, and I think it's an ODI series as well in the West Indies. So yeah. Outside of the non-Proteas, this is quite key. And also, obviously, we're going to talk about the World Test Championship squad today. So that's going to be what's happening today. But yeah, remember, we're South Africa's number one. Yeah, we're number one. Cricket podcast. We talk all things South African cricket, domestic and international, men's and women's. Yeah, if you want to follow us, please follow us on X at Full Quota Pod. Subscribe to the Full Quota Podcast on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube right now, just like and subscribe. Just like and subscribe, so you know when we go live. We've got lots of content coming for you in the off season as it's done. Also for the audio viewership, Full Quota Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify, and then finally, and also fundamentally, you can also buy some coffee at buymeacoffee.com. That helps us /Full Quota Podcast. That helps us keep the content coming and helps the machine move as much as it can. So yeah, look, it's been a very interesting week. We've finally know the 15 players going to the World Test Championship final, and we've also gotten views on the new limited overs coach, which is Shukri Conrad, and we're going to talk about that as well. And then also the emerging teams in Bangladesh. The men's team didn't do as well, but the women's team did really, really well, and we're going to talk about that on today's show. Without anything else, let's keep going, Tim. First order of business, quick one. Shukri Conrad announced as limited overs coach of the Proteas. Now he'll be coach for all three formats, but that change comes with something else, Tim. It comes with him not being able to select unilaterally more teams. It comes with his the formation of a selection panel. What do you make of that, Tim? Because it was, I think it was it's the right call, but obviously there's many more to that. But what do you think of the news?
So we discussed this both in terms of who would be the white ball coach, and if you've listened to me, I've been a proponent of somebody in between the system between Enoch and Quay and Shukri, just bouncing ideas in terms of selection of Shukri. I didn't like the idea of complete carte blanche. And then a couple of days after we had that podcast, I read a very good article from Tough Advice over at QuickBuzz, and he made some very good points. He was worried, or is worried, that where that influence is going to come from is the board going to be picking the teams. I want to make this very clear. I still want Shukri to get the final say. I still think Shukri should have the final say. I just would like somebody to bounce ideas off in that there is a go-between, an in-between. So he's not forgetting players that he might not be seeing, because, for example, he's not going to be watching a lot of domestic cricket over his tenure as the Proteas coach. But that does concern me in terms of, are we going to go back to a return of boardroom interference when it comes to team selection? I'm not going to lie, that does concern me. I just hope we don't go down that route, because we know what happened when that happened.
Yeah, look, you don't want influence, but you also want the ability that, because the other side is obviously the coach has favorites, right? Are you comfortable with the coach having favorites over other players who may be knocking on the door? And cricket's a game of opportunities, right? So if the coach has favorites, it means he'll give more opportunities to some of those players who might need a little bit more time to find form over those who are red hot right now, right? And so that's the give and take that you play with on either side of this, right? I didn't mind giving Shukri the ability for him to have favorites. He understands the system, he understands transformation. It's just a question of sometimes you want to second guess. Like, remember when he said Tristan Stubbs at 3, we all looked at him and said, so if someone else was in the room, that conversation would have had a lot more back and forth, right? And if it comes to the press, you'd have the comfort that they had discussed this and this is where they were going, right? Just as an example, right? The other example is if Dane Patterson plays at Lords, right? You'd love a committee to be debating, umming and ahhing the whole way through, but also there's the influence conflict. But the other side is there's one man's making unilateral decisions. But look, the only good thing about him making a decision is that it's on his head, right? He's the coach. You give him free reign. He selects the friends, and you not the friends, the favorites. Sorry, not friends, favorites. And you just live with the fact that this is what it is, right? There's a subjectiveness to cricket selection over and above the objective. You're scoring runs. And sometimes it was about character. Remember a couple of years ago, I used to call them Shukri's character monsters. That's who they are, right? He picked the team on character. Tony DeZorzi's there because, yes, he scored runs and yes, he did. But Tony's, over the last couple of years, it's that triple century. Outside of that, he got into the team because of the character that he showed. And that's the character you needed for Test cricket. And it's proved out correctly at the highest level, right? Same thing with the backing Aiden at the top of the order when Aiden wasn't having a great time with the bat, right? It's proved dividends, right? Same thing with Tristan Stubbs at 3, and he still doubled down on that, but it's worked out, and so it's that you are worried about. But the other side is the influence of CSA, right? Who makes the final decision? Who makes the final call? We've had stories about selection discussions throughout the last 30 years in South African cricket around, players getting played and captains not agreeing. I think it should be like conclave. It should be sacrosanct. You shouldn't have these things come up, but they do. As to this person said this, we were forced to do this. And if you just need to listen to the latest Carl Abbott podcast on the other cricketing podcast channel, where you just all sit there going, yeah, okay. I have lots to talk about that, but it's fine.
I didn't want to be reminded of that, but I saw that as well. That's what I'll say.
Yes. And then so the other thing, Tim, the other piece of news, it was massive news from CSA Monday. We have a limited overs coach. I like the limited overs coach. One more thing there. I liked it because it made sense, financial sense, right? Cricket SA wanted to do the split responsibilities. I don't think we're a country that can afford split responsibilities, right? But somehow that was the focus because the world was split in two, red ball cricket and white ball cricket. But then you saw the work that Shukri did with this team, and it was in stark contrast to what Rob was doing, right? To the point where this team's one big limited overs win, the ODI series against England, had Shukri in the room. Rob was in New Zealand via Zoom as still head coach, but Shukri was interim coach. He was in the room, and the players who he played with, or the guys going to the World Test Championship, he got them to play out of their skins. We've never seen those guys play like that again, right? And also the type of cricket they were playing. Managed to score 300 multiple times. They put England to the sword with their attacking batting style. And you sat there going, Tim, Shukri was just that kid in the class you just want to tell to not do things too well because your parents are always going to compare you to him. And did Rob fall foul of that? And was this all part of Shukri's plan? Not saying that it was a big thing that Shukri wanted the one job, but there's two questions. Obviously, CSA coming back into one coach, but was the decision made easier for CSA because there's this man on this side who won 8 in a row, taking this team to the World Test Championship. And then on top of that, in Rob's first series when he was coach, but he wasn't there, Shukri sat in the dressing room and those boys performed like we've never seen them perform before.
Yeah. So yes, we did touch on the fact that, and I'm pretty sure we said this would probably happen, that Shukri would probably get the job. I put myself in cloud 9 when I was giving you candidates that I would have liked to have seen at the post. But in reality, that was never really going to materialize for the reasons that you point out, largely financial. So it makes perfect sense from that point of view. It really does. It makes perfect sense. I can tell you right now, the atmosphere in the dressing room is going to be completely different. Before a ball is bowled, there is going to be a happy dressing room within that one day in T20 setup, which in some quarters definitely was not the case when Rob was in charge. For whatever reason, I just think that their partnership just did not gel for whatever reason. The other big thing, and it was huge when he came out from the dressing room, and not the dressing room, the press conference that Shukri said, he said all contracted players must make themselves available for all Proteas games. That is a game changer, an absolute game changer. Well, this is where I feel some sympathy for Rob. Rob did not have that luxury. Rob had players playing in the PSL, the IPL, this, that, and the other.
Everything that has an L.
Yes, exactly. Every T20 league was... He did not have the luxury of picking a best 11 in the bilaterals, only in the World Cups, where he was, to a large extent, successful. So I have some sympathy there. That is a huge, huge call. And again, I think it goes to the fact that the relationship that Shukri has already with the players. The players like him. I don't think he could say in that dressing room, in the press conference, they must play without knowing that the majority are green-lighting it. The majority are going, absolutely. Outside of the IPL, they will still go to the IPL, but when it comes to the others, if the Proteas game is happening at the same time as a T20 league, you must make yourself available for the Proteas. That is absolutely huge for the national side, and I don't know how Shukri's managed it, but it's a huge credit to him.
No, it is. And to some extent, we sit here, World Test Championship ahead of us in a month's time, and you're like, I wouldn't be surprised if you won it. And yeah, it's because of the culture that he creates in the team and what he does, right? I think this morning I was talking on another platform around soccer coaches, right? And one Orlando Pirates' coach, Jose Rivera, has left. And he left last week. His last game was last week, Wednesday. The league's still not over, but he asked to leave early. And the comment was made that sometimes you need a coach who puts an arm around you. And to a certain extent, certain South African football coaches don't do that because that's the culture in South Africa, right? You don't put your arm around players. Players must revere you as the coach. Similar to a certain coach who used to coach SA under 19 for a very long time. But Shukri seemingly is a different kind of coach. It's more arm around you, more of a, because and we're moving to the World Test Championship squad because that press conference said a lot. Like the Kagiso issue with the cocaine. Now it's cocaine. It's like, wow, geez, Kagiso. And Shukri was like, how can I help? It wasn't an admonishment. It wasn't a you've done bad. It wasn't a you're going to get dropped. It wasn't all of that. It was, how can I help? And I think that's the style of man management. And I'm not saying Rob didn't have that. I think Rob did have that. I think Rob never was able to work with the core 11, the starting 11, with their availabilities. And I think that's the slight difference between a Rob and a Shukri going forward, is that Shukri always had his best players available to him. Rob had to jump and jive, run around, and try to figure out which 11 he needs to put on, which is why he gave us that dumb quote. Okay, it's not a dumb quote, but he gave us that quote that I don't believe in, where he was like, no, you need a pool of 40 players. I'm like, South Africa can't afford to have a pool of 40 limited overs players. It does not make sense. And so, yeah, it could be that. But yeah, and to a certain extent, that's where Shukri is. And that's why I call them the character monsters, right? Because, whatever they lack in talent, and this is a pretty talented side, but compared to Australia, they meet with effort and attitude, and that comes from the coach. And all the guys we've interviewed have spoken about coaches backing them and all of that. Matthew de Villiers last week said Robbie P backed him, and he was able to express himself, right, knowing that he was free to do whatever he got him there, right. And I think that's the type of culture that I think he's going to bring. And yeah, look, standing here in 2025, 2 years away from a World Cup, you never know. You never know, Tim.
Dude, you never know. You never know. It's the right decision at the right time. You don't often get that in the same sentence, but it is. It's the right decision at the right time. There's enough time for Shukri to plant his white ball plan with the players that he knows already very, very well.
Yeah. And look, it's not like he doesn't watch domestic cricket. He does. So I'm expecting new players to come in and younger players to be back, because that's the other thing, right? As Shukri's tenure as test coach has got, he's added more players. Not saying that he's added players that he likes, right? Which is great, and he's allowed to, right? And he's given them a backing, right? If you look at Ricks coming in, Ricks broke the door down, right? And now he said he's opening up in Lords next month, right? Tristan Stubbs as well, right? And to a certain extent, the difference between how Stubbs was batting at the back end of the year in the limited over side versus how he was batting on the test side was chalk and cheese. It's like you were watching two different men, right? Stubbs was scoring difficult runs for the test team, but here, when there was not a lot of clarity, he wasn't coming through, right? And to a point where he sat on the bench in the entire World Cup, which I don't think was fair, right? And so you have that. And yeah, look, I think we wish Shukri all the best as limited overs coach, and looking forward to see how he brings in the youngsters, right? How he backs some of the youngsters who are the SAA tour, right? He's going to be watching. He's going to have his eyes and ears there. He's got his lieutenants around him looking and watching. So it's going to be interesting to see who from that West Indies tour actually makes it into that first limited over squad that gets selected, right? And obviously all the PLs and the SLs and all the Ls in the world, you must choose. And yeah, that's something that's going to happen. Let's move on to the World Test Championship, Tim. Same thing, Shukri Conrad, man of the show last week, star for CSA, could potentially earn CSA 74 million rand. $3.6 million goes to the winner of the World Test Championship. He also could potentially, the loser gets 2.1 million. So that's another 50 million in the bank guaranteed for the Proteas. He's already earned them that money. So that helps, and that's the thing about winning, it brings in money, and I think Shukri likes the color of money, and money attracts him. I don't know. That's what it is. But anyway, announces the test squad. And so I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'm going to read it out, and then we're going to talk through some of the, guys who made it in, but look, what he did was he selected his tried and tested, the horses that got him through those 8 wins on the bounce. You have Temba Bavuma as captain, David Bedingham, who's in the UK right now, batting there. Corbin Bosch, coming back from that lost series, he gets his faith is repaid in him. Tony Dezorzi, Marco Janssen, Keshav Maharaj, Aiden Markram, Vian Mulder. Senran Mutusami gets a call up. Lungi Ngidi as well coming into the side. Dane Patterson, Gohisu Rabada, Ryan Rickleton, Tristan Stubbs, and Carl Verena. Tim, it's the same old, nothing else. The question here were the fast bowlers, right? What's happened to Anuk Nokia? Why is Gerald Coetzee not there? Nandre Berger's fit as well, but largely all of them not selected due to a fitness issue. But I don't think it's a fitness issue, Tim, because they've been playing.
Except what they will say, it's not test match fitness fit, not 5-day fit. I also have a problem with that. I mean, if you can play like virtually every single day for 3 months, in a T20 competition, then you can play 5 days. And let's be honest, you can play 5 days. So I think it's a conscious decision. I really do. It is interesting because going forward, I will touch on the squad just now, but just going forward, at the same time this is happening, Marco Jansen has been pulled out of playing in the American Premier League. I forget its name. Major Cricket League.
Yes.
To be available for the Test series against Zimbabwe. Again, do we need him for Zimbabwe? No disrespect. Anyway, he's available. While at the same time, Arnold Nokia is going to America. That's pretty significant going forward in terms of who we are picking and Arnold Nokia's availability for Test cricket. But on the squad itself, it is the tried and tested. I was on an Australian podcast about 6 weeks ago, and I'm glad I didn't mention any of these fast bowlers because I was fairly confident that none of them would be in the picture. I would love them to be in the picture, but I just said it. No, it's going to be what we have ended up with. It's going to be KG, Marco, and Lungi.
Yeah, look, and it's interesting, right? Because obviously a lot of the people out there would say Lungi's not at his best. He's not there. But again, this is a character pick, right? You've got me there before. I'm backing you all the way through. Same thing with the Dame Patterson, right? You could have upgraded, not necessarily upgraded, but you could have brought in a Gerald or an Andre for a Dane, but they're looking to use his experience in the UK, and to a certain extent, it is the last dance for, I think, what the squad will look like now, right? Going forward, I think the Geralds, the Nandres come in, Gwena Mapaka comes into the equation, and then so you are moving on, and to speaks to your Anrich Nokia point, right? I think Anrich somewhere this week mentioned that he was available for selection, he's fit, and he just wasn't selected. And yeah, and I think he took the hint. I think we all should take the hint that what he said about trying to focus only on T20 cricket last year kind of probably pissed off Shukri. And he's nowhere to be seen because we needed fast bowlers at a point in time, and he wasn't available, right? And obviously he was going through many injuries and all of that. And to the extent he did get selected for the Proteas, then he broke his toe. So yeah, make of it what you will, but it's kind of a signal into the future, right? And what's happening in Major League Cricket also kind of, because I saw that. I'm like, LA Knight Riders, well done. Okay, cool. Yeah, but look, Shukri just wants to win games, and I like that about him. And he wants to respect every fixture, which I like too. And that's why that warm-up test match in England against Zimbabwe, that he's gonna wanna make some sort of a statement, right? To show that the guys are ready. And yeah. But look, the only one thing for me in that squad was Corbin Bosch. I didn't think he was gonna make it. I thought Joe was gonna come in, but look, he's earned his call up, and that's what it is, as much as it frustrates me. But for me it is what it is.
It speaks to what you said earlier. When somebody does well for Shukri backs you.
Yes.
I think most people would have said, thanks, Corbin, you did fantastic, but Gerald is the future. Gerald is the one we want for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Most people would have been along those, including me. He goes, no. He goes, Corbin did fantastically well for me. I want to back him. I want to give him that time to show that he can do it.
Yeah. So a couple of talking points. Obviously, Ryan and Tony are there. Who's going to open with Aiden? Shukri effectively said Aiden's opening. That's not Aiden. Ryan's opening, right? So then the question is, who's batting at three? Is it Tristan? Is it Tony? He was a little bit non-committal there. He was even said like, I need room for a surprise, but I don't think Tristan's not making it in that 11. I think the surprise is either Corbin Bosch or Dane Patterson. I think you've got your three fast bowlers. I think the surprise might be Keshav might not play, and it might be because when we arrive at Lords, it's just gonna need what it is. But I don't want to drop Keshav. I really don't. I think Keshav has earned the right to play in this game, and yeah. I don't think we need four fast bowlers. I think Vian might crack the nod to kind of give you that control with Keshav there, but it might be a situation of a Lungi doesn't play, Dane plays, or Lungi doesn't play, Corbin Bosch plays. But I think Corbin Bosch and Dane are effectively most likely be substitutes, but I wouldn't put it past it, right? He's got Marco, he's got Kagiso with the pace. If he wants someone to hoop it around corners, it's Dane. And Dane's done that for us, even in the absence of all these other guys, right? So it'd be good to reward him on that. But what do you make of those comments from Shukri, Tim?
Yeah, I think the comments about Lungi are perhaps are perhaps not necessarily, but I think perhaps they remind me of what Australia would do. Australia would pick up somebody knowing they are not going to play them. They would pick them up, tell them how wonderful they are, how well they're training, how they've gained an extra yard of pace, and then come to the day they go, no, we're playing Dane. Dane's playing instead of Lungi. And I'm not sure that's going to happen, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I also don't think Shukri is massive on numbers. I really don't think it's a concern of his. It's character. Dane is not bowling particularly well in the county cricket this season. He's averaging over 40. I don't think he looks at it and goes, not good enough.
Yeah. The other person is David Benning. Does he play? Right? Rickleton coming to the side puts a span in the works. Vian Mulder playing well-ish over the last year creates a situation where, if you look at that top six, right, it's Aiden, it's Ryan, Tristan at 3, Temba at 4, and then the question, obviously, at 5 and 6, right? You can have David there. You can shift everyone down 1 and have Tony at 3. And so the question, obviously, then is, how do you manage that? Obviously, Carl's at 6. He needs to be there. Vian is there as well. So how do you manage all of that? But I think he's going to put faith in David.
I think David's going to play. I'd be very surprised if David doesn't play. It is important for me to be objective, though, and say that his form has not been great for the Proteas in recent performances, as well as he broke his toe at the start of the county season and hasn't been playing. He played in the first game or second game, broke his toe, and he hasn't been playing since then. So for at least the last 2 games, he hasn't been available. But he is available. He is available for the test match. He will be fine. If he didn't play, I would be surprised. But as we see with Shukri does give us the odd surprise from time to time.
That's what we need. But yeah, look, it's gonna be interesting to see. We're a month away. Should be very, very exciting. I wish the Proteas all the best. The other thing is obviously the Proteas at the IPL. The IPL started this weekend, Tim, and Lungi's been replaced. It's like that line from Shukri around, put your country first, boys. Is starting to reverberate around. The players are leaving on May 25. It's good to see. It's good to see that we're winning the IPL versus CSA battle. And sometimes it takes strong men to turn organizations around. Shukri could be that guy and could also obviously help Enoch Nkwe bring the first title to be title to South Africa.
The only thing I would say is if we didn't have SA20, I don't think it's just happening. It's fantastic. I think that's our bargaining chip. That is our counter to the IPL wanting all our players right until the very end. We go, well, we can go to American investors in a couple of years, and your contract is coming up in the SA20. I'm sure some American investors will be interested in the competition. That there is a way that there is a bit of fight back from Cricket South Africa. There is a bit of, and that's good to see. It's good to see.
And I like it. And that's why when we win the World Test Championship, the rest of the world, or the rest of the big three must want to play us at all. Because like you always say, you thought England was better than us. Australia think they're better than us. They're going to find out in June that they're not. India thought they were better than us, and they came here twice, and we embarrassed them again. And now Virat Kohli's retired because he knows he can't conquer South Africa. What was he thinking? Even the greats in India couldn't do that. And that's what we want, right? Make South Africa a destination for cricket where guys come. If we're having the Ashes, we must have South Africa versus India in December. And we close the cricketing world like that. If it's India, Australia, in Australia, then best believe England's coming here. Right? And that's how you do it. And that's and then you can get to share the broadcast rights. And now you can even ask for a piece because they want to play us. And I think what Shukri's done is has opened up a new world for CSA, a world where they can actually throw their weight around. And yeah, we like it. And they must continue to do that. So yeah, let's close that conversation here. We're going to talk a lot more about World Test Championship going in to the next couple of weeks because, hey, it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. Okay, we've had two squads in Bangladesh. Obviously, the women's team was the senior women's team was in Bangladesh. The Proteas women, they didn't do well there. Not Bangladesh. They were in Sri Lanka, and they didn't do well in Sri Lanka and India. But then we had an emerging women's squad in Bangladesh. That emerging squad had the next group of players coming through. They played 3 ODIs and 3 20s. The ODI series, they won 2-1. They played 3 games. SA Emerging in the first game, scoring 180 for 5 after restricting Bangladesh Emerging to 179. Dalmarie Tucker taking 3 for 32. Leandan Zuza, the spinner from the Free State, taking 2 for 27. Faye Tunnicliffe, 89 not out. And Ellis Marie Marks, 50 not out. In the second game, it was 151 plays, 152 for 8. Bangladesh were restricted to 151. And the SA Emerging managing to get to 152 for 8. It's not the best batting there, but Alice Marie Mark 3 for 13, Damitake 3 for 22, and Gandhi Japta from the Titans, the black African batter there, scoring 52. And then lastly, SA Emerging Women lost to Bangladesh. They were set a target of 254 to win, and they could only get to 239. Dalmi Taka taking 2 for 39. Simone Lawrence, the youngster out of SA Under-19, the first World Cup, 68 for 63, and Faye Tantler 55 for 58. Tim, when you look at these results, right, you have a situation where you realize that a lot of the former Protea players are popping up here, right? They were the ones who were leading the performances. Dalmi Taka, Ellis Marie Marks, Faye Tunnicliffe in the runs. And it's good to see because you want the competition, you want them to come back. And then you have some bright lights, and one of them is Simone Lawrence, 68 in that final game, because she's the next one we're thinking should be there.
Yes, it was very, very impressive. I really thought both series were good. But you're right. I think if we didn't have those experienced players, I think we would have lost both series. I think the difference between having, as you say, the three that you mentioned, Marks, Phaeton and Cliff, was huge. There were tricky periods. When there was a tricky period, in terms of our bowling, Marks often got us out of trouble. Same with Delmy Tucker. They often got us out of trouble where some of our less experienced players found the conditions quite challenging, which is perfectly acceptable for a very foreign conditions for the team.
Yeah, and that's what it was, right? From a batting perspective, you knew you would struggle, right? And you saw that in the last two games. The question obviously was, it's about learning, it's about understanding different conditions and understanding what it takes to score runs in these tough conditions. And you can see a Simone Lawrence at the end applying what she was doing and learning and showing that there's serious potential here. Then they played 3 T20s, and SA Emerging won that series 2-1 as well. SA Emerging beating Bangladesh by 5 wickets in the first match. Bangladesh scoring losing to Bangladesh by 5 wickets. SA Emerging only setting 116, Bangladesh 118, losing by 5 wickets. Faye Tancliffe scoring 43 of 37. Leah Jones taking 2 for 1. Simone Lawrence 32 of 32. SA Emerging Women beating Bangladesh by 36 runs, scoring 115 for 8 and bowling out Bangladesh for 79. Khomotso Rapo taking 3 for 9. Zintle Kula of Southwestern Districts of the Badgers, 2 for 15. And Luanda Nzuza of the Free State, 1 for 10. So that was just a bowler's day that day, and they did really, really well there. SA Emerging, then in the final game of the series, beating Bangladesh by 8 wickets. 121 for 2 was what they set, and beat Bangladesh only managing. Bangladesh set 117, and SA Emerging winning by 8 wickets, 121 for 2. Alex Candler, 3 for 22 with the ball. Simone Lawrence, 40 not out. Faye Tanicliffe, 35 of 33. And Alex Candler again in an all-round performance of 30 of 39. And again, Tim, this one was a little bit more about the newbies. Yes, Faye Tanicliffe has put up a hand and said, yes, put me in there. But Alex Candler with notable performances, and Simone Lawrence having a great tour there. Leanda Nzuza as well as an option in the bowling department as well. And yeah, good series for them. And it was good to see in the T20 that some of the newer names are coming through and putting their hands up. I've been crying for Alex Candler for a while. I thought she should be in the Proteas women's setup already.
Yeah, this was why I believe Tanisha should be the Proteas women's coach, because of the way she managed the younger players. The younger players, as you quite rightly pointed out, shone out in this particular series. It took a little bit of a while for Simone Lawrence in the ODIs to get going. In the shorter format, getting used to the conditions, different format, having a bit more freedom to play our shots, she showed her real talent in this particular series. It was also very, very important for Alex Candler. Alex Candler struggled a little bit in the ODIs, tried to force the issue too often, got a couple of low scores. Again, Tanisha shows responsibility, says to Alex Candler, you've still got the talent, I still believe in you. Plays in the final game and gets man of the match in the final game. That to me shows real responsibility, both from the player and from the coach, in that just because you perform not as well as you would like early on in the tour, you're not banished for the rest of the tour. You come back in when it's more suited towards you in a different format, and there's a freedom to play your game, and they thrived. You're quite right that this is where the youngsters came through. It was really, really impressive, and it shows a real youthful talent that is available, that should somebody lose form in the national side, there are options. There are options for Mandla to think about.
Mm. And that's important, and I think that's what the series was supposed to do, and it did, right? Obviously, some of the players who were in the current setup before Mandla, that is Mary Marks and Faye and all of that, stepping up. And then obviously you got Delmi Tucker, who was at the World Cup as well, and maybe wants to have another fair shake, right? And that's what you want. You want competition, and it was good. And obviously the younger ones, the newer ones, Sumane, Alex, giving themselves an opportunity to be seen and to be taken account into consideration for selection. Okay, well done, Dinesha and the ladies. Now, the SA emerging were also in Bangladesh, and in the contrast to the ladies, they did not do well at all. They lost 2-1 in the ODI series that they played, but it was the emerging side. It's the next level. SA emerging lost to Bangladesh in the first game and the last game. The first game, SA emerging scored 301 for 8, and Bangladesh got to 302 for 7. Connor Estezen from the line, 71 of 69. And Lisa Malani from the Dolphins, he's also he's capped. He's a Protea cap in limited over, 61 of 39. George van Heerden, 2 for 51. Tsepondwanda, 2 for 58 in that game. The second game, you got SA Emerging 332 for 7, beating Bangladesh by 10 runs. Managing to bowl them out. Connor Estezen, 91 of 68. Andile Semelani getting 5 for 56 in that bowling effort. Dion Forrester with 96 not out. Good to see him continue his rich vein of form. And Andile Mokhagane, 55 of 63. Back in the runs again there, Andile. Then the final game, a low-scoring affair. Bangladesh were restricted to 225, but SA Emerging only getting to 191. Losing by 34 runs. Sepondwandwe, 33 for 28. Tian van Vuren, 2 for 41. And scoring 40 of 34, not out. And then Andile Mokhakane scoring 35 in a losing cause. May not have been the best, but Tim, the players we expected to step up did. Connor Estezen, Simelani, Dion Forrester. George not with the bat, but with the ball. And Andile Mokhakane with the bat there, if you're looking for a black African batter. Yeah, what did you make of that series?
Yeah, very different, as you say. Very different to the women's series. This was people that we know are good, people that we know are on the fringes, people that we know are very talented, performing. I had some issues with some of the 11s picked in the series. They didn't quite fit well with me. The makeup of the 11s, put it that way, the makeup of the 11 just looked a bit lopsided for me. Too strong at the batting and too weak at the bowling. But that aside, it is important to point out that the Bangladesh side were more experienced. They had 3 players that have played for the national side in the squad, so they were more experienced. So I wasn't necessarily expecting us to win this particular series. The result isn't the be-all and end-all, but it is good to see the fact that guys that we know are good performing in foreign conditions. That is still a plus for the team. It's going to be very interesting to see how they perform in the 4-day competition, which starts tomorrow, I think.
Yes.
That's going to be very, very interesting to see in humidity and heat for 4 days. That's going to be very, very challenging for the players.
Yeah, and also something to look forward to is the SAA in West Indies for their 4-day series and some of the ODIs as well. So that's going to be cool because I like the likes of Okutle Teles, Lesotho Sinokwane, Marcus Ackerman, Jason Smith, who I think are the next group to take us to World Test Championship Final 2027. And yeah, it's going to add, right? We've got a away series, and I think it's great that both emerging and the SAA are playing away from home, because that's our life for the next year. And I think it's going to be quite key for them to learn the ropes, understand, and maybe, put the guys who are going to World Test Championship final under pressure. So yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I'm so happy about South African cricket. I think we're in a good position. There's no drama. Even when there was the drama, it was handled well on the Kagiso effect. That was like beautiful, right? And so, yeah, Tim, I don't think we've ever seen a period like this before, because there's always some of the underlying things, right? I think even when we were winning the Test Mace, there was always some drama in and around the side. But I don't know how we got here, but well done to Enoch, Boletsi, Shukri, and the team at CSA for giving us a period of joy, of calm, and we know where the future's coming from, right? We know where players are, we know where everything is happening, and it's really, really great. It's kind of weird because obviously I'm wearing this African soccer shirt, and our under-20s won the the AFCON for under-20s for the first time ever, and even there, it's like it feels like it's a new dawn, and so I just don't know. I think South African sport is on the up, but the cricket team is also on the up. And Tim, that week in June, it's going to be so sweet because it's Australia.
My pessimism, I'll put that aside slightly.
Look, give us your pessimism, Tim. Come on, that's the whole point of us.
Okay, all right. The fact that the only time any platform mentioned both emerging series is when the women's series was finished. That annoys me.
Okay.
That annoys me. It was never announced when any of the games were on. I will apologize next week if it was, but
yeah.
I looked on social media. I did not find a single link to any of the games when they were on. Not one of any of the emerging games. That is very, very, very annoying.
I'm with you. I get you. But if I'm angry about social media, and that's my only worry, that's your only bugbear, then it means we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, agreed. In general, we are moving in the right direction.
Look, obviously we'll like that. And the other thing is domestic cricket also needs to be fixed. Like, it's a little messy. But
it's getting 50 million. Come on. That 50 million, or the majority of that 50 million,
has to go to the domestic cricket.
Can solve the domestic problem. Honestly, it can solve it for the next 10 years.
So what you're saying is you need the Proteas to keep winning World Test Championship, getting to World Test Championship finals, and that's how you fund domestic cricket. Okay, correct. I'm on board for that. I think that will work. Because we need. I think that's the thing, and I think that's the strategy. That's a business strategy. Win games, win test matches. You can see there's money there. Every 2 years, you can get 50 million coming in. And it could be a nice bonus. It's a way to keep doing that. And if you are winning, more teams will want to play you. And that for sure is what because then they'll be like, no, in South Africa, I know they're like two test match series, but can we make it 3? And when you win, crowds come in. When you win, SuperSport wants more of your content. That's how you get CSA into a profitable position. Fix the pipeline. That's what you're doing with emerging and SAA. That's what you're doing at SA under-19 for both men and women. The men's side was already fine. The women's side is improving. You've got SA20 to kind of give players a bonus so people don't feel like the rand is strengthening them or strangling them. And then the only thing that you then need is to find ways to attract people to the South African game. And we were never part of the big 3. We never were part of the big 3. But when we were winning and holding on to the test mace, people wanted to come and play us. And that makes our chest a little bit bigger, makes our voices a little bit more hoarser and bolder. And people can't do much without you. And a cricketing world with only 3 big teams, not so great. with a fourth big team that is a country that loves sport, a destination people want to go to, and probably a pool of one of the most talented cricketers in the world. Why not? We have a 60 million market. That can work. Yeah, but that's just me. Anyway, that's the end of the show. As Tim has alluded to, there's an SA Emerging 4-day game. We will try on our socials to put up the link when we find it. Also, the West Indies SAA games that are happening this week and next week. We'll post the links when we get there. So the idea is follow us on X at Full Quota Pod, just on the strapline. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like what we do. Subscribe, and you'll get our content. And then also Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you like it on audio, you want to do it in the car, you can do that too. At Full Quota Podcast, we're there. And please buy some coffee. You can see how passionate we are, how we're trying to get this to as many people as possible. Please help us buy some coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Full Quota Podcast. It is a big month. We're entering a big month for South African cricket, and we'd like to put our best foot forward. And so the only way we can put our best foot forward is if you are also supporting us and sharing as widely as possible, and engaging with us on any of the topics, right? Let us know what you think. We are very good at responding to YouTube comments. So and also Twitter comments, X comments, right? So please do that, and we will be back with you very soon. But outside of that, thank you very much, Tim. Have a great week. It's emerging and SAA week, so there's some cricket for us outside of the IPL, because I know you don't watch it. But yeah, outside of that, it's from myself, Mpho and Tim. It's goodbye and lesale. Kakahiso.